Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago, and thank you for joining us for the final evening of our virtual National Consultation on Education 2020. This afternoon, we discuss the Teaching Service Commission. I am Matthew Gibbs, and I'm, as always, pleased to join you this afternoon to discuss this very interesting and I'm certain insightful topic. This afternoon, here with me in studio, we have Dr. Fazal Ibrahim Ali, who is a former chairman of the Teaching Service Commission. So we're certain that he's going to share a different perspective than we're accustomed to on the topic of the Teaching Service Commission. Also joining us virtually, we have Dr. Verlene Bob Lewis. Dr. Verlene Bob Lewis has her PhD in Educational Administration and is currently holding the position of Technical Advisor of the Division of Education, Innovation and Energy at the Tobago House of Assembly. So we have two different perspectives that will be shared with us this afternoon. Now, for many of you, you're thinking, what is the Teaching Service Commission? Because we hear about it through the Ministry of Education when we're trying to understand, well, why hasn't my teaching application been processed? And you hear, well, it's over at the Teaching Service Commission. For those of you who don't know, the Teaching Service Commission was established under the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and is charged with the responsibility under Section 125 as follows. Subject to the provisions of the Constitution, power to appoint persons to hold or act in public offices in the teaching service established under the Education Act, including power to make appointments on promotions and transfer and to confirm appointments and to remove and exercise disciplinary control over persons holding or acting in such offices to enforce standards and conduct on such offices. So the Teaching Service Commission has their role and function. As we delve into the discussions this afternoon, I'd like to share with you the contact information that you can use if you want to be a part of this conversation. You can WhatsApp us at 776-0440. You can call into the studio at 622-4010, or you can send us a comment on the live streams on TTT Live Online or at the Ministry of Education's Facebook page. So, as we get into this conversation, I'd like to go to Dr. Ali. Dr. Ali, tell me a little bit about the Teaching Service Commission or your perspective on the Teaching Service Commission as it stands.
Thank you, Matthew. And good evening to you.
Good afternoon.
Viewers. I would like to start the conversation, Matthew, by describing what we would call a future state of the Teaching Service Commission. So I'd like us to ponder and focus mostly on what this thing could look like in the future. How could we change it rather than look backwards into it? And I think a future state of the commission should be one that moves the commission directly into a monitoring function only, which means the commission will delegate its authority outside of the commission through delegation orders, to district offices. So a monitoring function alone, and you will have delegated authority, let us say in the Education District of Victoria or Port of Spain and environs. That office will oversee, for example, appointments, transfers, discipline, secondments, acting, interviews, promotions, confirmations. So that will happen at the district level, not at the commission, with notes coming to the commission. It will happen at a district level. So it is as though you are decentralizing the operations and making them more local. In a future state, I also think what we should be looking at is advertising positions in the Teaching Service Commission in a generic form. Principal, primary, Victoria. So someone who applies to be a principal in Victoria could be placed at any school in Victoria. So you're not going to advertise these positions anymore. Principal, St. Mary's College, right? I think another important feature of the future state of the commission is that it should embrace blockchain technology. It's very important to understand why I'm saying this, because if you look at the Ministry of Education, it keeps its data in 7 compartments, 7 education districts, and we have Tobago, which makes 8. Each district is then broken into primary and secondary, and primary would be broken further into state schools and those on the board. So you have 14 compartments there, right? 12 compartments, 12 compartments in all in your data. The commission keeps its data in primary and secondary, and primary would have state and government. So you have 4 data sets there. When you organize your data like that, you cannot get these databases to talk to each other properly. So a change in one point does not manifest itself immediately in the next place. But using blockchain technology, any change you make and any part of the system will manifest itself everywhere, and so everybody will know where we are. We have to move towards, Matthew, using merit for promotion and advancement, not seniority. Merit, not seniority, merit. And we'll come back to that. Once we have a commission operating in the 7 districts and in Tobago, then Dr. Bob will agree with me that, for example, Tobago becomes a site for the statutory meetings of the commission. And you deal with the Tobago primary and you deal with Tobago secondary at those and by sitting in Tobago. I have done this already. Okay? So, for example, if you want to deal with the schools of St. Patrick, the commission sits in St. Patrick and it is dealing with the primary and secondary schools of St. Patrick alone on that day. The Teaching Service Commission, along with all the other commissions, in my opinion, they are central organs of the state, and they have remained the same size since 1962, with the same number of people and the same budgetary allocation. But the population has become larger. People want quicker service, better service, more efficient service, and all of these demands is putting a great burden on a thing that has remained the same. So the Public Service Commission, the Police Service Commission, the Judicial and Legal Services Commission, all of these 4 valves of the state need greater attention because they are at the center of the apparatus of the state and they have not been receiving more staff. The future state of education should also involve, Matthew, that we must stop immediately from today, in this moment now that we are here, Matthew, to accept walk-in applications off the pavement. I think the Ministry of Education is the only government ministry that allows this in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Because when you submit your application, Matthew, what is the vacancy you are applying for?
What position are you filling?
Where is the vacancy? So you are accepting these applications and the person is seeing that you have accepted their application. You're writing them back a letter stating we have accepted your application, so they have an expectation that something is happening. Then they get a next letter telling them it's gone, the application, the credentials have gone for assessment. So they have even more hope now. Then it comes back and it says you are teacher 3, secondary French, and you can teach up to Form 5 and Cape Unit 2 in a secondary school, and the commission is directed to interview you. When you look at it now, the commission might be processing people who were assessed in 2014, and we're in 2020. So you are now behind 6 years of applicants. Because when the University of the West Indies graduates, let's say 100 people in chemistry, I'm just using a rough figure, we have 141 secondary schools. And if you add the private secondary to that, you will reach 158 roughly. And you have 550 primary schools. The output from the universities, there is no way the education system could absorb that.
Every year.
Every year. Every year. It is too much, and that has consequences for GATE. Why are we funding this if we know we cannot absorb it?
Now, Dr. Ali, I'd like to pause you here for a moment. So you have made some very strong points. Some of these points that affect things like the Concordat, because from the point that you raised about the Teaching Service Commission not stating where the positions are located and just stating that we have an opening for, let's say, a teacher 3 in Victoria or St. Patrick, this takes away the ability for the board schools to be able to say, well, I want this teacher, or that, so that person can apply to that specific position. So that's something that we can get into a little bit later on. And there's certainly a lot of things that you pointed out that definitely talks to the reform of the Teaching Service Commission and how that can impact everything that we know in terms of the getting into the service at this point in time. Dr. Bob Lewis, I'd like to come to you now. Dr. Ali made a lot of strong points and a lot of strong recommendations as to how we can reform the Teaching Service Commission and move forward to what he has outlined as a more efficient service that will be beneficial and redound to all of Trinidad and Tobago. If you're applying to become a teacher, it will now be because you are applying to fill a vacancy, and you're not just going to be submitting an application that's going to sit for an extended period of time. Can you speak to what you believe is happening maybe now or should be happening with the Teaching Service Commission?
Thank you very much, Natia. And I'm happy that Dr. Ali is my very good friend, and we have had an excellent relationship working between the Tobago House of Assembly, the Division of Education, and the Teaching Service Commission. But he went to the future state, but I think we should have spent a little time talking about what happens now, especially, and I'm going to deal mainly what happens in Tobago. So we have faith in the commission, because in having discussions with people recently, they said, oh, get rid of the commission, everything taking too long. But I believe that it was well established and it should be remain. But as Dr. Ali said, should be reformed, should be changed in terms of the timelines within which issues are dealt with. We in Tobago, for example, and you have to cross the sea to get there. A lot of the appointments and promotions, transfers, and even disciplinary matters take a very long time for various reasons. And sometimes the blame is placed on the commission. It's not always the commission to be blamed, because whatever issue it is, whatever matter it is, the information that goes to the commission must be very accurate. And I think we have an issue with accuracy. Okay, and we hear the Prime Minister and there's an officer, a minister dealing with digitization and digitalization. And because we're only dealing with files, paper, and we have excellent workers, yes, in the Commission Chair, Division of Education, but sometimes the paperwork, the paperwork is so enormous, and things take a very long time to move from one desk to another desk. So even as he's talking about that future state of the commission, we also have to look at a future state of all the arms of the Ministry of Education and the THA, Division of Education, in terms of documentation. How are they filed? Do we have, can we just pull up, somebody comes with an issue, can we just pull up on our computers and see what it is and track it and know where it is and when it went to the commission? Sometimes you have to check a file and the file may not be readily available because somebody else is dealing with it. So you find that what the matters take an extremely long time. In Tobago, and he talked about it, there is an office, a commission, which serves mainly as a place to come and conduct interviews, or a place like a courier service where you lodge documents to be sent to the commission. The time has passed when we should have that office properly set up and properly populated with staff who could start dealing with some of the issues, even in the future state as he's talking about. But there must be here before, at least some aspects, if not all, before they get to Trinidad. We have that issue in Tobago. So it takes even a longer time in Tobago's matters, because they have to go to that office and then they said, oh, we have to send a courier on plane and then go down. So you have to deal with all those at the same time. So those are some things that relate to Tobago that I want to start talking about. But to say that commission must remain, but we have to find a way of fast tracking what they do. I agree with Dr. Ali that maybe you should have a sub-office in every division. and one in Tobago, so that matters could be dealt with immediately. In disciplinary matters in particular, sometimes by the time the information, you have to appoint an investigating officer and then move to the next stage, and then before it goes to the commission. And sometimes those become statute barred. It would have taken so long that the issue would have may have become redundant. So these are some issues that we have to deal with.
Thank you, Dr. Bob Lewis. Now, Dr. Bob Lewis, you have outlined for some of the challenges that are experienced in Tobago, but your challenges in Tobago are challenges that have been experienced or expressed across the board. But one of the things that we have to look at when we're looking at the efficiency of the Teaching Service Commission is that the commission is guided by several different acts or is part of various different bodies that they have to report to in order to effectively carry out the roles that we're asking them to carry out. Right now, the Teaching Service Commission is guided by the Public Service Commission regulations, by the Education Act, by the Teaching Service Act, by the Constitution. They're also guided by the Chief Personnel Office and the Concordat of 1960. Now, if we're speaking to efficiency and we're looking at all of these different areas to which the TSC has to be guided, how can they essentially be as effective as we need them to be? This is the question that we're going to break on right now, and we're going to come back to discuss. So join us as we continue the conversation on the Teaching Service Commission.
Sweet 100 will be your sweetness this Christmas as we celebrate the sweetest 100 days of Christmas.
On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a partridge in a pear tree.
We're set to make your Christmas brighter when we light up your Christmas tree with 100 bells. There are 100 gifts under the tree. One of them could be yours. Simply count down the sweetest 100 days of Christmas with us, and when you call, give us the correct number we're up to in the sweet 100 days of Christmas. Give us the access phrase on the
First day of Christmas,
my sweetness gave to me. Make those your first words to us whenever you call, and you could win a gift under the tree. So join us for My Sweetness Gave to Me on Sweet 100.1 FM, celebrating the sweetest 100 days of Christmas. Sponsored by
Now, wherever you are or wherever you go, you can stay connected to the Catholic news, available at groceries, pharmacies, retail shops, service stations, and newsstands. You can even subscribe to get your copy delivered to your door, or get instant access on your tablet or smartphone via our digital download. Our weekly publication of the Catholic news has something for everyone, with editorials, living liturgy, featured stories, eulogies, classified ads. We've even got a children's page with class time for the kids, even tips on healthy eating and fitness. Send us your prayer requests or get your parish activities and events highlighted. To advertise in any of our publications or to subscribe to get your Catholic news delivered to your door, call us today at 623-7620. Or if you would like to get instant access on your mobile device, visit the CatholicNewsTT.com website and subscribe with our online application. So reach for something good. Reach for the Catholic news. Spreading the good news. Spreading news. Support the mission.
Welcome back, Trinidad and Tobago. Before we went to the break, we left the conversation and we were pondering how efficient is the Teaching Service Commission, and how efficient can they be based on all of the different governing bodies that are involved in the abilities and the operations of the Teaching Service Commission? Before we go into having Dr. Ali give us a response to that question, we have a caller on the line from Faizabad. Faizabad, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. I want to say that good afternoon to members of the panel. At present, we have a Teaching Service Commission that was appointed, comprising of a chairperson and 4 other members. I want to suggest that just like the Holy Service Commission, that when a commission is being appointed for the teaching service, that there be certain criteria in terms of the membership. For instance, we should have somebody with an HR experience and background, somebody with a legal experience and background, somebody with an IT experience and background, and so forth. The second point I want to make is, normally, from our understanding, the Service Commission probably has 2 statutory meetings per month. But we are dealing with over 500 schools, including primary and secondary. So I would suggest that there be more statutory meetings. And I totally agree with Professor Ali that the Commission needs to delegate some of its present work to the Ministry of Education, to the Permanent Secretary, and then it could be diversified according to districts or units. For instance, when you have to make acting appointments, that has to go to the Teaching Service Commission. When you have to do transfers of a teacher, that has to go to the Service Commission. And there is no need, in my opinion, for that to be happening. I also want to support Professor Ali on the issue of decentralization. So you have a disciplinary matter, and you have a parent and a child from Cedras or Guayari has to come to the tribunal to give evidence. And they have to come to Port of Spain at the offices of the Teaching Service Commission. If we do some decentralization and have offices elsewhere like San Fernando, Rio Claro, San Grande, Tanapuna, wherever, we are making it easier for the public to access the Service Commission, and these disciplinary tribunal matters might have greater success. Also, the Teaching Service Commission needs to have the necessary staff to carry out its duties. So we have the Commission will, through its staff, advertise positions for promotions. The advertisements go out, people apply. And sometimes we take 3 years to have the interviews because the Commission needs the staff to go through all the applications when they get them from the Ministry of Education and do the processing before the interviews are held. That is defeating the purpose. So I want to suggest that the staffing for the Service Commission be improved. That, as Professor Ali is saying, we have decentralization, especially for interviews and disciplinary matters, and delegation of a lot of what the Commission does at present. So the Commission will have more of a monitoring and oversight position. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Faizabad. Now, some very interesting points raised. He highlighted the fact that we need to look at the composition of the service, and I would leave Dr. Ali to speak to that as well. Is there a real criteria as it stands for the composition of the persons that are elected to the board of the Teaching Service Commission? He spoke to the decentralization of some of the functions of the Teaching Service Commission to allow for the ease for some of these issues to be mediated, like maybe we can go to the district offices and serve the communities in which these issues may arise. Also, he highlighted the issue of staffing. That has been one that we could say time immemorial has been something of concern. So Dr. Ali, we come back to you now. We left off speaking about efficiency of the Teaching Service Commission. We have some more points that came in from the caller from Faizabad. What would you like to respond to first?
Well, I think the caller from Faizabad was very much on point. And I think the first thing, Honorable Minister Gatsby Dolly, I would like to urge her in this moment to put high on her legislative agenda a new Education Act. And we should get that to Parliament very quickly. I don't want to get into all of the reasons why, but for example, we all read the newspapers and we see what has happened at one of the universities in Trinidad. And since 2004, an act of parliament was supposed to be passed to oversee the governance of that institution. But the present Education Act also does not speak about curriculum officers. It does not address early childhood care and education. It is too old. And simply doing small amendments like little patches and so on, that will not do. We need a proper Education Act from ABC to PhD to oversee the entire system. And we need also to address the fact that there are many persons who are in schools, who are interacting with children, who do not come under the teaching service or the Ministry of Education. For example, the librarians, the farm attendants, the lab technicians, and so on. So if there's an act of misconduct, that misconduct, the Teaching Service Commission has no sight of it at all. It goes to public service. So we don't even know that that is happening with a laboratory technician or a farm attendant.
But they are working in schools.
With children.
With children.
This is a gap. This has to be changed. The librarian at a secondary school is not under the Teaching Service Commission. They belong to NALIS. Right? So these are gaps. And another significant gap is morale. We have a number of officers who are classified as delinked officers, or delinked officers if you want to call them. These delinked officers are persons who were once in the civil service, but now they receive additional payment in their salary to make their salary, for example, higher than a principal salary. These are the directors of the Ministry of Education, school supervisors 1, 2, and 3, the curriculum officers. But when they retire at their benefits are calculated at the substantive pay. And this must be fixed immediately, right? This must be fixed immediately so that people have good morale. These people are supervising and directing the entire Ministry of Education. So we should give them a greater sense of belonging and reward them for their work. That makes them motivated. So I don't know what you would want to ask me from there.
Well, I think that there's a lot that we can pull from right there, because in addition to a reform of the Teaching Service Commission, which is where you started,
Yes.
we're now speaking to a reform of the Education Act. You're looking at it wholesale, do it over, and make it relevant. You're saying that as it stands, it is not relevant, as you pointed out, from ABC to PhD. And when we're speaking to that, we're looking at inclusion, because as it stands, it is not inclusive. We have ECCE, we have special education, and as you pointed out, there are several areas that are missed by the Education Act as it stands.
Yes.
But before you continue, I'd like to hear from Dr. Bob Lewis. When we're talking Education Act reform, is this something that you agree with? And as for the Teaching Service Commission aspect of it, how do you think the two can work together?
Yes, and I totally agree with Dr. Ali in terms of the Education Act, because as it stands, it doesn't take care of early childhood. And we had an issue in Tobago with early childhood centers, where we had teachers being paid from Trinidad and paid at a lower rate, and then we had to take them over. And it was a little messy situation that also reached the court. And that happened because they're not seen as part of the education system. And the time has long passed. We should regularize them. I feel sorry for school supervisors, because for such a long time, they're not part of the system, and they have to get an allowance to make up their salaries. So you find that principal. So it's something that needs to be regularized as soon as possible, because it's supposed to be a stepping stone from being a principal to being a school supervisor, 1 or 2 in the primary schools, or school supervisor 3 in the secondary, and all they get is an allowance. So that must be dealt with immediately. Those 2 in particular affects us seriously in Tobago, early childhood, and the post of school supervisors. The curriculum officers are also experiencing challenges in terms of, because some of them cannot even be gazetted, and they don't get their traveling allowances as easily as they should. So these also need to be organized.
Thank
And
you
I
very
agree.
much, Dr. Bob Lewis. So, if we're looking at transforming education, and that's the theme that we're working with in this national consultation, we cannot look at it in silos. We can't look at transforming education simply as, well, we can reform the Teaching Service Commission. There's much more to that, and it's being said that we have to start with what governs education, and that is the Education Act. We have a call on the line from San Fernando who wants to add to this conversation. Good afternoon, San Fernando.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity. I am reading from the recent Teaching Service Commission report. The new Delegation of Powers Amendment Order will tackle some inefficiencies which currently exists in the system by giving the Ministry of Education and the Division of Innovation and Energy more powers to deal with issues of staffing and discipline. Will the implementation of this law promote decent work and economic growth, quality education, and reduce inequalities? We also need to remember that a parent has a right to have his or her child attend a school of his choice. Will parents' rights be affected by this delegation order? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller. We have another caller on the line from Diego Martin. Diego Martin, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, you're live.
Okay, hi, good afternoon to the panel. My contribution is, I don't know if somebody said it already before, if I missed anything, but what I would like to add is that I agree with Dr. Ali, for concerning the merits for promoting teachers instead of seniority, because I'm looking at myself as an example. I did my UTT degree, I did my bachelor's degree, and I have my bachelor's, which I'm still working on the salary range for a teacher who is, I'm on the salary range, and the teacher who has a diploma in education is working for more money than me. I find that to be very unfortunate because I finished my degree since 2014, and I'm still working on that stated salary. That's one thing. And the other thing is I completed my master's program, and in the education system, how they have it situated is that you are doing your master's program and there's no compensation there. So it's like, so why look to elevate yourself? That's one. The other thing is the better service and efficiency, the valves of state. I think that I forgot my point there, but I will just stick with the first point in terms of the merits for promotion. I like that idea. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Diego Martin. So we're looking at merit and we're looking at compensation, which, as you would know, Dr. Ali, has been something that for many years people have been discussing. They've been aggrieved about how is it that we are being compensated. They believe that, many persons believe that it's not fair. Before you continue, I have some comments here that I'd like to share. We have from Lauren Semper Scott. The Commission has a track record of efficiency. What would be the basis for trusting their competence and effectiveness in choosing principals who are well suited to the culture of the school they are assigned to? Then we have another comment from Shivani Ramdeo Sipasad, who is a teacher 3. Good day. With regards to the promotion of teachers, an examination should be developed like one that is used by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The examination should include situational analysis of delinquency, rights of the child, legal and human rights, curriculum and discipline, etc. This should be done prior to final face-to-face interview, because a lot of times principals are inefficient and ineffective and look good based on junior staff members' work. This will allow for more transparency. One should not get acting, etc., based on the number of years in service, but based on the fact that they're continuously polishing their practice. We have one more comment from Lauren Semper Scott again. When we're embarking on change, we must evaluate the cost of benefits of proposed changes. Efficiencies may have unintended consequences. Efficiency must be in service of the education mission. So that speaks to what you have spoken to, Dr. Ali, that we want to balance the two. We want it to be effective, but at the same time, we want to ensure that the commission is doing what it is they have been set up to do.
Yes.
So what would you say to that now?
Okay, so these are some wide-ranging comments. So first of all, I want your listening audience to understand the distribution of power in education. So there is the Honorable Minister Gatsby Dolly and her directors and her Ministry of Education. There is the Teaching Service Commission, but there is this invisible Chief Personnel Officer, the CPO. And the CPO is responsible for, in the labor laws, the CPO is responsible for the maintenance and the management of the classification of all workers. Right. So the CPO has the job descriptions, and the CPO will determine what will be the entry requirement for a job, whether it's 5 O-levels or a degree. So we have to look at the job descriptions held by the CPO in the education system. That's one thing. The other thing that your caller mentioned the culture of the school. And it goes back to my first point when I said that the commission should have a monitoring function. So shouldn't we move to a future state where the principal of QRC picks the team? Why is the commission picking the team for him to run the school? If he is the principal, we admire Finland. We want to speak about Finland every day. We want to write about Finland in every newspaper and every article and every blog. But that is how it is in Finland. That is how it is in England. The principal is picking the team. Why can't the principal interview the people, oversee the discipline of the staff, the hiring, the firing, the everything, the promotions, everything, and the commission is monitoring? Because you have to understand the culture of the school, and your caller is right. If you don't understand the culture of the school and the climate of the school, and you might have a person there a principal is about to retire, and you have a senior person, the regulations permit the Ministry of Education to pick someone who is below that person because they might have the correct features to really manage that type of school. So that could be permitted, but the ministry must state exactly why they are skipping over that person. And that goes back not to performance appraisal. You can't just be giving everybody performance appraisal, very good, very good, very good, excellent. It must be accurate, because then you have to have a basis upon which you made a decision to bypass this person.
Based on some of the points that you made, they were also echoed when we were discussing earlier the Concordat. Mr. James Sammy, who was a government secondary school principal, he highlighted that the fact that principals of denominational schools have the opportunity to select their staff, as it is you're highlighting, that contributes to the ability to the school to keep a certain level, to maintain the standard that they have set, while at the government schools, the teachers and staff are assigned, and as a result, again, as you just pointed out, culturally, the fit may not be the same. Yes. So there's another aspect that we have to look at when we're looking at how teachers are placed into schools. We have 2 calls on the line that we'd like to take that may want to contribute. Good afternoon, Tunapuna.
Good afternoon. I'm calling on behalf of my fiancée.
Tunapuna, can you please mute the device in the background?
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I'm calling on behalf of her. She just finished her bachelor's, right? But she also turned 45 years. All right, and she trying to apply to the ministry, and for some reason, like I don't know if she getting turned down because of her age, and so calling to find out to get some advice that if she probably could apply or to go about and know about, or I don't know if you all might be in that field to give me some advice on it, how the case might be.
Thank you very much, Tunapuna. We'll get to your question. Good afternoon, Port of Spain. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, panel. I'm calling to express my opinion on the reform of the TSC in the sense that the powers of, for example, if a teacher is brought to commission for disciplinary reasons, all right? If as it is, from my understanding, the commission doesn't seem to have enough teeth to discipline a allegedly delinquent teacher or teachers. So I was wondering if under those circumstances, those kinds of powers could be strengthened to make the commission more effective in that regard, and also bearing in mind that the commission uses resources from the ministry in order to carry on its roles and functions and what have you on a daily, monthly basis. If these kinds of reforms can be instituted in order to make the body that much more effective and relevant to the issues within faith and within the education system today.
Thank you very much, Port of Spain. Now that poses the question, is it the ineffectiveness of the Teaching Service Commission, or is it the rules and regulations that guide the Teaching Service Commission that makes it seem like their work is ineffective? And we will get to that question. And Dr. Bob Lewis, I'll be coming to you with that question. We have another caller on the line from Shagonis. Shagonis, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, you're live.
I'm listening to the conversation, and it seems as if everything that happens in the commission seems to be so objective, like if perhaps it is a computer system that is doing the promotions and all of that. But from my knowledge, I've been in the teaching service for approximately 35 years, and I have seen over and over again where people are promoted based on who they know and who they can talk to. And we are not addressing that. It continues up to today. So we need a system that is objective. Before we could look at saying, okay, we are going to maybe promote give the supervisors this and give the curriculum officers this and that, and look at the allowance and all of that. We have to look at the system that promotes people. And if that is not fixed, then it doesn't make sense to fix anything else, because we are putting the wrong persons in places. That's my contribution.
Thank you very much, Shagonas. So, Shagonas highlighted that nepotism may have a part to play in how teachers are selected, how teachers are promoted, and that speaks to Dr. Ali's point about the duration of time it takes for somebody to be selected as a teacher. Now, Dr. Ali highlighted that because of the various processes that have to be followed, and because persons apply for positions that are not even available just yet, this has to do with why that process takes so long. But we're getting reports that it may be nepotism that is causing some to get promoted or to get a position over others. And that's an area that we will discuss. But we want to come to Dr. Bob Lewis now. We want to speak to that issue of the effectiveness or the efficiency of the Teaching Service Commission. Dr. Bob Lewis, what is your view? Is it the issue of the rules and regulations that guide the TSC that make it so difficult for them to be effective, or is it just the TSC as it stands?
And it's a number of factors, and some of them actually came up earlier. One, I think a caller talked about the possibility of the commission meeting more frequently. And because you're talking about dealing with 500 and plus schools, you need to meet because matters would arise all the time. People retire, you have to employ new teachers, you have promotions, you have transfers, and those take too long. Some of them, not all of them, you could blame the commission for. I'll give you an example in Tobago some years ago. Things were taking long, yes. And Tobago went ahead and placed people while they said they were waiting on the commission. And that ended up as really chaotic. And it took some supervision and supervised and other officers to actually, put people back in the correct positions and have the matters resolved by the commission. So sometimes it's what goes to the commission. Or sometimes when you wait too long, you decide, okay, I'm going to act on my own, and that causes more chaos. Somebody made a point about nepotism and the hiring of principals and so on. Whenever the interviews come up, principals and teachers, they go to all ends to be interviewed. They go to experts to prep them for these interviews, and they go in there and they say the best things. Well, now they have a written aspect, and sometimes people are able to give them practice as to what to write and to what to say, and they end up getting the positions. What happens after you get the position? So you're entitled to be placed. But then when they are appointed to the schools, teachers, principals, HODs, we're having it all around. We find that somebody mentioned the culture of the school. Some of them not able to adjust to the culture of school. Some of them just know what to say to get in, and after they get in, they don't perform. Today, I was talking with one of my bosses and saying, well, we have some schools doing extremely well with this digital learning, online teaching, virtual teaching, whatever you call it. But there are few schools where parents are complaining that the teachers aren't doing anything. No, those are teachers who went in and were interviewed and did beautifully, and you think that they will perform with excellence, but they go in there and they cannot perform. One, maybe they didn't understand the culture of the school. One, they may be a misfit for the job. Some of them say they're too old to do this digital work. So we have the children in the classroom are suffering. So sometimes we blame the commission, but maybe the probationary period must be looked at even greater, because you are there for 2 years. Who looks at you to say anything? Or sometimes you are able to work out those 2 years and then you change afterwards. But there must be a continuous process of money.
Thank you, Dr.
And evaluating
Bob
what teachers
Lewis.
do, nepotism, and who put you in the position.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bob Lewis. And these are critical points that have to be looked at. Monitoring and evaluation after somebody's appointed to a position. Because if it is, we're able to prepare, we go in, and all of us do it. We prepare. We go into the interview, we say all the right things because we want the job. We may not be qualified per se for every aspect of the job, but we prepare ourselves, we say what we need to say, and then we get the job. But once on the job, are we able to hack it? And who is ensuring that we're able to do what we say that we're capable of doing? We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back and have further discussion on the role of the Teaching Service Commission.
Sweet 100 will be your sweetness this Christmas as we celebrate the sweetest 100 days of Christmas.
On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a partridge in a pear tree.
We're set to make your Christmas brighter when we light up your Christmas tree with 100 bells. There are 100 gifts under the tree. One of them could be yours. Simply count down the sweetest 100 days of Christmas with us, and when you call, give us the correct number we're up to in the sweet 100 days of Christmas. Give us the access phrase on the
First day of Christmas,
my sweetness gave to me. Make those your first words to us whenever you call, and you could win a gift under the tree. So join us for My Sweetness Gave to Me on Sweet 100.1 FM, celebrating the sweetest 100 days of Christmas. Sponsored by
them ask, wear your mask.
Welcome back. The Teaching Service Commission, effective, relevant. These are the discussions that we're having this afternoon. We have a call on the line from Trin City. Trin City, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, Trin City, you're live.
Yes, good afternoon. Yes, hello?
Yes, Trin City, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to make some points about the Teaching Service Commission. The first thing I want to say is that we need to understand the genesis of the Teaching Service Commission, why it was developed, and what its role is, the intended role of the commission. The Teaching Service Commission came out of a demand by Dr. Rujanat Kapil to have a body that will protect public officers, teachers, and everybody else from the vagaries of the politician. Now, that is an important thing for the simple reason that if we don't have that protection, then the politician could ride roughshod over public officers and teachers. That is something we have to protect because they are servants of the people, not of the politicians. Right? We have a judgment called Endel Thomas versus the Attorney General, where the Privy Council made that point. The Privy Council said that the Teaching Service Commission has to protect the members of the public service from the politicians. Right? Let us talk about the role of the commission now in its legal role of appointments and promotions and so on. You cannot have a part-time organization doing a full-time job. It doesn't work that way. You cannot have a body with the responsibility of monitoring and promoting and transferring and all of that. And the people in charge are part-time. They don't have the resources to get the job done the way it should be done. So we should be talking about ensuring that the commissions have the resources so that they can do the independent investigations into the performance of teachers and principals so that they can do a proper assessment of that. This next thing we're talking about is the hiring practices. The way we hire and promote people in Trinidad and Tobago needs to change. If we don't change that to a more evaluative way, where you could assess people over time, then we will be spinning top in mud. If we do not prepare people for succession, for promotion properly, be spinning top in mud. That is what should be happening at the Teaching Services Commission and all the other commissions as well. There is need for that body to be properly resourced. They must be able to be independent and do their role of evaluating teachers, looking at their performance, even after they have hired them, even after they have promoted them. There must be a period where the commission can effectively monitor their performance. Right? We are continuously trying to blame the commission for things when the commission has their hands tied behind their backs. What we need to do is to resource the commission properly and let the commission work the way they should. The commission could develop all kinds of evaluative tools to continuously evaluate people on their own, independently, so nobody could give any biased opinion.
Thank you very much, Trin City. Now, Dr. Ali, Trin City basically covered what you have stated and what Dr. Bob Lewis have stated, that there are particular areas of the TSC that have to be looked at and to be made more effective. We're looking at the role of the commission and ensuring that they're fulfilling their role. We're looking at resources. We're looking at the hiring practices, everything that has been spoken about before and in different ways. Now, when we're coming back to you, we're looking at what is happening. You opened by speaking about what the TSC can look like in the future, what the future of the Teaching Service Commission should look like if it is we are to be effective. But what can we do right now? You had suggested that the minister look immediately at the reform of the Education Act to make it more relevant to the times that we're in now. But as we understand, that is legislative. That is going to take a while before it can be effected. What are some of the things that we can do right now if we are truly to get from the TSC what we need to get from it?
Okay, right now we need staff to process applications and go through all of those things. You need a better allocation from the national budget to resource paper and everything else to have that thing moving smoothly and efficiently. So you need more finance, you need more people. The 4 commissions are like valves, they're like hidden valves in the government. The 4 commissions, the Public Service Commission is overseeing every other government ministry. The teaching service is with teaching only, 16,000 plus teachers. Then the police service is attending the police, and the judicial and legal services chaired by the Lord Chief Justice is overseeing the judiciary, right? These 4 pistons must be financed and staffed properly. They are central to the apparatus of government, and reforming them and getting them up to date is very important. One of your callers talked about the delegation orders. Delegation orders have been existing for a long time. The Ministry of the Teaching Service Commission has the power to do appointments. So we have given the Ministry of Education a delegation order to do interviews for primary. Primary teachers don't come to the commission for the interview. So delegation orders are a feature of the system for a long time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ali. Now, there are aspects of the roles and functions of the Teaching Service Commission, and as Dr. Ali highlighted, of the 4 commissions that make up the commissions of Trinidad and Tobago, that many of the members of the public do not understand. So is it that we have to make the public more aware of the roles and functions of these commissions so that they understand that some of the blame that may be placed on the Teaching Service Commission at this point in time may lay elsewhere? Questions that we have to ponder. We will be taking a short break and we'll be right back to continue the conversation on the Teaching Service Commission, its effectiveness, and what has to be done for it to function as we go forward.
This Christmas season, give your child the gift of a fun, interactive educational tablet system from JJ and Friends. Get exceptional discounts on all our highly successful JJ and Friends tablet programs. The JTAB Junior Suite for children 2 to 5 years old, the JTAB Suite for children 6 to 8 years old, and the SEA Suite for children in standards 3 to 5.
So there you have it, a perfect solution. Learn to read and eradicate crime.
I would encourage any parent to buy this product.
You are setting the future for your children.
I see a great improvement in my child.
I'm 100% satisfied with the JJ and Friends Phonics program.
It has changed my life. It has changed the life of my 2 sons.
Give your child a gift for Christmas that would last a lifetime. Call us now at 800-READ, 800-7323 or 673-3175 to take advantage of this special Christmas offer.
Over the past few months, there's been a shift in our way of life due to COVID-19. As part of the new normal, here are some measures that you should put into practice to protect yourself and others. Wear a mask when you go out in public. Keep your distance from persons at least 6 feet. Wash your hands often with soap and water, or in the absence of soap and water, an alcohol-based sanitizer should be used. Avoid touching your face. Cough into a tissue and cover sneezes with the inside of your elbow or upper arm. Clean high-touch surfaces frequently, including tables, doorknobs, light switches, countertops, handles, desks, keyboards, toilets, faucets, and sinks, etc. Stay home if you are ill. Last and certainly not least, remember to be your neighbor's keeper. Be kind and show empathy. Stay safe, TNT. A message from the TTT Limited Media Network.
This is the start of a journey bringing you the history of the African people from the beginning of time to the modern era. a TV series based on a unique project put together by UNESCO known as the General History of Africa. Africa's history written and told by Africans.
Welcome to this afternoon's Playway Pick 2 and Pick 4 draw, supervised by independent auditors KPMG and presided over by the National Lotteries Control Board. Good luck, everyone.
Good afternoon. It is Wednesday, 25th November 2020. Welcome to the 4 o'clock drawing of the Playway Pick 2 and Pick 4 numbers. First we draw this afternoon's 4 o'clock Playway number. And the winning number is 33, lucky mark, Spider, number 33. It's time to create your own Mega Mix where you can get your best value for $1. Our Mega Mix machine is loaded with 9 white balls, a Mega Ball, a Mega Ultra Ball, and a Mega Extreme Ball. If a white ball calls, you win the base amount of $26 for every $1 played on the winning mark. However, for an additional $1 each on the Mega Mix options, you can win an additional $85 when the Mega Ball calls, an additional $110 when the Mega Ultra Ball calls, and an additional $130 when the Mega Extreme Ball calls. Players, the Playway Mega Mix is your best bet for value. Players number 33, Spider has called along with all 3 white balls. Keep on playing. You've won the base payout of $26 for every $1 played. Remember, you can play 1, 2, or all Mega Mix options for only $1. And now we draw this afternoon's Pick 2 numbers. And the first Pick 2 number is 18. Once again, that's 18. And the second Pick 2 number, 35. That number again is 35. This afternoon's Pick 2 numbers are 18 and 35 in that order. Now for a Pick 2 Mega Mania draw. This afternoon, we start with the Mega Ball and 2 white balls. If the white ball calls, there will be no extra payout. However, when the Pick 2 Mega Ball calls, players who wagered an extra $5 minimum on the Mega Ball will win the base payout of $2,000 plus an additional Mega Prize of $6,000 if they match 2 numbers in the correct order. Players, the white ball has called. Keep on playing Pick 2 Mega Mania for even more money. And now let's draw the winning numbers for this afternoon's Pick 4 draw. And the first Pick 4 number is 4. That number again is 4. The second Pick 4 number eight. Once again, that's 8. The third Pick 4 number is 2. That's 2. And the fourth and final Pick 4 number is 8. That number again is 8. I will repeat this afternoon's 4 o'clock winning Pick 4 numbers 4, 8, 2, and 8 in that order. Congratulations to all our Playway Pick 2 and Pick 4 winners. Players, have you visited NLCBgames.com? You can search for past draw results and get the latest on NLCB game promotions and information. Stay in the know this Yuletide season with NLCBgames.com. Tonight's Lotto Plus jackpot is now a minimum guaranteed $2 million. Now for some cashpot news. 5 lucky players who chose yesterday's 5 winning numbers each won $30,883. Congratulations to all you cashpot winners. The NLCB cares about your health and safety. Please play it safe, TNT. Please wear your face mask, and before coming to our lottery centers, we urge you to fill out your bet slips, and remember, you can advance wager on all games. Players try NLCB's Scratch Game Luxury Ride. This game gives you 20 chances to win a Mercedes-Benz and big cash prizes for just $50. Get your Luxury Ride Scratch ticket today. You could be our next winner to drive in style. Thanks for viewing, and join us again at 7 p.m. for another Play Pick 2 Pick 4 and Cashpot Draw.
Well, 17 is my favorite number.
14 or 7.
How do you choose your numbers?
See, I jam this was getting real bad around the corner, so I go and use that capiche and play that.
I will play like 4 or 5 numbers for the most.
By seeing anything. Too much for the day.
We see real plenty today.
Belly, right through and down the bounce, man.
Welcome back. Now, during the break, Dr. Fazal Ali and I had some very interesting conversation about the things that the public may know or not know about the Teaching Service Commission. And with me also here, virtually, is Dr. Verlene Bob Lewis, all the way from Tobago, who has been lending her perspective as we continue the conversation on the Teaching Service Commission. Now, Dr. Bob Lewis, I'd like to come to you for a minute. Dr. Ali and I were speaking about the Teaching Service Commission and things that people may know and may not know. One of the things that came up was the fact that as when a person wants to enter the teaching service, many of them are unaware of what it is needed before they go into a particular subject area. And then a lot of persons blame the Teaching Service Commission and they say, well, they never told us this before. Is it the responsibility of the Teaching Service Commission to publicize what requirements are for each level or each type of teacher? Or is that another entity's responsibility? What would you say to that? Okay, so Dr. Ali, I'll come to you with the question while we work out some technical difficulties with Dr. Bob Lewis. What needs to happen? Whose responsibility is it to make members of the public aware? If it is you want to become a teacher, these are the areas that you would have to cover if you want to be a PE teacher, a French teacher. Whose responsibility is it?
So this responsibility is at the foot of the institution preparing the student. So the University of the West Indies, the University of Trinidad and Tobago must do academic advising. And for example, at UWI, you have the English degree where people know they're going to become English teachers. And so there's a specialization there that allow them to go straight into classrooms. So they do literatures of English with a specialization in teaching. You will find that if someone did a degree in engineering and they wish to become a mathematics teacher, they will, after assessment, they will have to go back to UWI to do a couple natural science maths courses.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. And we got back Dr. Verlene Bob Lewis. And we want to come back to you. Whose responsibility is it to make persons aware if you want to become a teacher, this is what you have to do?
Well, we tend to want to blame the teaching service for everything. But if I want to be a teacher, I think it's my responsibility in the first place to find out what are the requirements. But I know over the last 10 years or so, we have had some teachers entering universities, I wouldn't call names of any. And when they exited, they expected to be employed and be at a certain position, and they could not because the universities did not provide them with all the courses needed. And Dr. Ali would know what I'm talking about. And so they had to do what we call bridging programs. So sometimes it's the fault of the person. sometimes it's the fault of the university. Because if you know you are training teachers, you should be preparing them adequately to enter at what, if it's primary or.
Thank you, Dr.
Or secondary level.
Lewis.
So I have a responsibility to prepare adequately.
Thank you, Dr. Bob Lewis. Now, before we continue, we have some comments that have come in through social media, and I'd like to share them with you this evening. We have from Kerwin Alexander. I think we should respect experience also. Book sense does not exempt wisdom learned on the job. In fact, most employers take experience over qualifications. He also stated, in fact, they usually have better class management and teaching skills than many qualified and inexperienced teachers that just joined the service. They might not be tech savvy, but they are very proficient. We also have a comment from Dr. Shanta Prabhakar, who has their doctorate in educational leadership. At this point in time, I would say that the HR department should be looked at. The qualifications and experiences of all should be considered. In restructuring, use the teachers who are qualified in particular areas to lead the various areas identified that need change. Education must be holistically managed. Teachers must be paid for their qualifications and experience and must have a say as they are the most important stakeholders. They have to deliver. Leaders of schools must be monitored carefully if the Ministry of Education wants effective teaching and high achievement in all areas in schools. Supervisors need to be monitored also. We have one more comment from Lauren Samper Scott. Discipline consistently and in a timely manner. Don't leave incompetent, late, or absent teachers in the classroom doing more harm than good. Dr. Ali, we come back to that continued conversation about disciplinary action and how effective the Teaching Service Commission can be at dealing with disciplinary action. How can we manage the disciplinary matters that come forward if it is we are still managed by all these different guidelines that we have to follow? As you pointed out, the invisible entity that is the Chief Personnel Office, they play a major part in how you are able to discipline at the Teaching Service Commission. What can we say to get the public to understand that the effectiveness or the efficiency that they're calling for is not necessarily a fault of the Teaching Service Commission?
Okay. Well, the CPO is really in charge of the management and maintenance of the classification of workers. So they really do not get involved if there's an act of misconduct in a school. Now, acts of misconduct can be of two types. It could be where the teacher is inflicting harm on a minor in their care. It could be that the child is also inflicting harm on the teacher. As you know, in the United States, we have shootings and so on in schools and so on, so you understand that is possible, right? And then you have child against child. And when you understand these dynamics, you understand the need for a new Education Act and an overhaul of the whole system, because we have to draw in closer the Children's Authority and the Children's Court. And unless these things begin to come together in one unit, and their methods of moving information and coordinated work, we will not have the kind of education system we need to have. So these things need the bits of legislation governing each happen one after the other. Now it's time for someone to take a look at it and bring it together in one. So that one of your callers talked about teeth for discipline. The Teaching Service Commission is not missing any teeth. The Teaching Service Commission is very, very wise, and it draws upon a lot of legal advice in various government departments constantly. And it must follow the rule of law. And in following the rule of law, it moves very slowly and very carefully, because it could be very costly if you make a misstep.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. We have some calls on the line. We have a caller from Sawa. Sawa, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, dear. I have a... Hello?
Yes, hi, good afternoon. You're live.
Yes. Okay. I have a question that I want to ask. Why is it they take so long to interview people who apply for teaching? They were assessed already, right? I'm talking about people who went to university, have their degree and thing, and they take so long. I have an application there since 2014, and up to now they cannot call me for that interview. And you have schools that need us, but because you don't have that interview, you cannot be employed. Can you highlight me on something about this, please?
Thank you very much, Sawo. And that's a very important question, and we will give you an answer shortly. We have a call on the line from Arima. Arima, good afternoon. Okay, we lost Arima. So, Dr. Ali, and it's interesting that that question came up because we were speaking about it before. Why does the process take so long?
Again, the Ministry of Education has to have, I don't know if it's completed at this time, to be quite honest. As we sit here now at this table, I don't know if the manpower audit has been completed in both Tobago and in Trinidad for both primary and secondary. I know we at the Commission wished that that had finished under Minister Gopi Singh. It was not completed. And I know we asked Minister Garcia to complete the exercise. So I don't know right now if that has ever been handed to the Teaching Service Commission, the manpower audit. That will tell us how many teachers you have in every school and what areas they're teaching in. That is very important to know because schools are not static. They might be teaching economics 10 years ago, but now no child is interested in that. They might have stopped teaching French. So a school has a particular tone, a climate, and a particular configuration, right? So you have to know this in order to determine the allocation of staff to a school. So the manpower audit is very, very important. So when someone applies for this teaching position, as the lady asked just now, I understand and I feel sorry to hear it, 2014. But what was the vacancy and where was the vacancy? So this application went in and we did write back to this person on a piece of paper with the coat of arms signed by an official from the government. So they feel something is happening. So the practice of accepting applications, it is time we start advertising the vacancies. If you have a proper manpower audit, you will know where the vacancies are. And therefore you advertise the vacancies and then you try to fit people interview into those positions. So we need to make that shift.
We're coming back to you, Dr. Ali, and we will be including Dr. Bob Lewis in this conversation. We'll be moving to speak to marginalized and disenfranchised because you made a point about the manpower audit that needed to happen. And this is interesting that you raised that point because when we were speaking before, we spoke about areas in town halls before, we spoke about the fact that schools no longer teach tech box subjects. Students are no longer interested. And as you pointed out, a school may have been teaching economics and right now they're not teaching it. So right now you have a number of vacancies that may need filling, but are you aware? And you may have a structure that has a particular number of teachers, but now nobody can fill those vacancies because there are no students to teach in those areas. So we're coming back to have that conversation. We have two callers on the line. Good afternoon, Arima.
Hello.
Arima, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, you're live.
I would like you to ask the gentleman, please.
He's hearing you.
Because we have a problem where acting is concerned in secondary schools. A good friend of mine has been acting as a head of department since 2009. Currently, for the last 5 years, her department has been getting 75% grade 1s in her subject. And I would like to know what it would take for her to be appointed to her post. Apart from that, it seems to me that the government's policy is this. If I am getting the work done for free, why should I pay for it? There are several vice principal positions, heads of department positions, among other things in secondary schools, in which teachers have to teach their classes and also act in these positions. And I see this as, I don't want to say failure, but a shortcoming on the part of the Teaching Service Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arima. Now, Dr. Bob Lewis, you highlighted some of the challenges that were being experienced in Tobago, and you kind of alluded to some of these challenges in terms of promotion, in terms of appointment. Can you speak to what can be done differently? Because as this caller highlighted, since 2009, we have somebody that has been acting in a position, they have been getting the job done, but it seems as though they cannot move from where they are. What can be done differently? And if it is you are aware, what are some of the challenges that are being faced by these persons when it is they're looking for that promotion?
Right. I think one of the main issues would be data management, because data exists, information exists, but they are not placed in a digital file that you can access it easily, so you are up to date in terms of what is happening or what is not happening. I think there's need for more conversation. We started it in Tobago, conversations with the TSC and our HR department in Tobago. I think that conversation has to be strengthened and continued, so that some of the expectations are not always there in terms of what the TSC expects of the officers of the division. So it's something that we have to work very, very hard on. And not just in terms of the data management, but in terms of the communication. So, for example, an officer may have an issue, just as the guy mentioned, acting for so many years, then it may be placed in a file, and then you send it down to Trinidad, and you to TSC, and the TSC sometimes seems so faceless. It's done by the TSC, and we are waiting and waiting, and nothing happens. So there must be much more conversation and communication between the HR department and the TSC, so that matters could be dealt with as speedily as possible, because people are just waiting. And there's also a greater need for communication with the union. The union sometimes, and in all cases, advocate on behalf of the teachers. So they come in and ask, and I have a teacher X waiting on this and waiting on that, but the actioning of it sometimes takes much too long. So there's need for communication, there's need for conversation, and there's a greater need for managing the data more effectively between, yes, the HR departments and also the TSC.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bob Lewis. Effective data management. That's one of the key things that can be done differently if we are to achieve the efficiency that we're looking for from the Teaching Service Commission and also the Ministry of Education. We have a call on the line from Shagonis. Shagonis, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
So I just have a statement for consideration here. The Teaching Service Commission, it seems to me, is plagued by the same problems that all other independent constitutional bodies face. I mean, clearly, if we are going to charge these bodies with such an enormous national responsibility, I think they should be guaranteed the resources to operate effectively. Or when it always comes back to going to politicians to prioritize their needs in the budget. The DPP, the Integrity Commission, all these other commissions, not one of these offices operates in an effective way in our country. So I believe we need to take a page out of local government reform and empower our local schools and principals to address discipline, recruitment, monitoring and evaluation. I believe such bodies will be more immediate to the needs of a given school than a centralized body. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this comes back to what it is we were speaking about, Dr. Ali, the effectiveness of the TSC, but you also spoke just now to a manpower audit that is needed to be effective. If it is we are to be effective, because as you started out by you pointing out, persons come in, they drop off an application. What position are they applying for? We're looking at the effectiveness of these applications and where they go. But now we're speaking to what are those vacancies in the school? We're talking tech voc, we're talking the specialized areas, all of these different things. What would you say to that?
All right. So the previous caller talked about the head of department, the VPs, the deans, and he was very correct. A couple years ago, maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, The last time deans and head of department was advertised was 2013. I wrote to the Minister of Education at that time asking that these positions be advertised. I wrote to the permanent secretary, not the minister. The positions were not advertised since 2013. So then I sought legal advice from government authorities that whether or not I could take away this authority from the ministry and advertise for heads of department and deans myself at the commission. The advice came back, yes. The next day, the advice came back, no. They stopped me immediately because I was taking away this from them to ensure that deans and head of departments were appointed into schools. Now, you have to understand something very, very important about this. This is not a small issue this caller raised. The head of department at any school in the city of Port of Spain, a college or a convent or whatever school, if it's the head of department for mathematics, let us say it is Father Laifuk, he is overseeing mathematics from Form 1 to the upper 6. He is looking at what every teacher is teaching every term. He is overseeing the examinations, the marks, every single thing. He is ensuring that every teacher has all the past papers, every problem worked out 4 or 5 different ways. He is the master teacher. He is the head of department for mathematics. No teacher in that school can slip him or elude him. He is telling them what is the job. When you don't have these people in a school, how is the school going to perform? How is the school going to perform? The deans are in charge of the care of the children, discipline, overall control. If they are not appointed, you will find that there is chaos in the school. You're finding that many schools, when they come to do the interview for deanship, they are failing the interview for deanship. So many schools have a shortage of deans. And therefore, you don't need a crystal ball to tell you which school is going to fall into chaos just now, You just look at your paperwork and you can see there are no deans there. Or there's only 1 dean out of 6. They should have 6, but they have 1. So you could just predict what is going to happen there. When I raised this matter, I was told that they will have to hire someone to do a study. But there was no need to do a study. We have the data. So the commission set up a plan to make sure that September of last year, September of this year, this September, all heads of department and deans would be in place. And we ended up in COVID and the entire plan fell apart. So, but that plan is still there. Now, they also all talk about acting, and he wanted to know this person is acting for so many years. Now, I'll be very quick. Under Regulation 24, the person could act, right, as a senior officer. They satisfy all the requirements. They're on an order of merit list, and that is a prelude to the post. Under Regulation 26, it is not a prelude. So somebody could be acting for a long time, but it is not a prelude to hold in that post. And the letter will state under which regulation you are getting this acting appointment, or either 24 or 26. And when the vacancy is advertised, you are free to apply and run with the rest of people to get the position.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. This afternoon's conversation has been an enlightening one. We've learned a lot about the Teaching Service Commission and this invisible body that many persons have heard about but had no knowledge about. I'd like to thank the panelists for this evening, Dr. Ibrahim Ali, Dr. Fazal Ibrahim Ali, and Dr. Verlene Bob Lewis, who shared their perspectives, shared their views, and shared their expertise on the Teaching Service Commission and what the future of the Teaching Service Commission should and could look like. The Ministry of Education thanks all of the participants of the virtual National Consultation on Education 2020 and for joining us on this, the last of the virtual town hall sessions. But the consultation is not over. You can still have your say. You can submit an email to the Education Consultation 2020 at moe.gov.tt. You can submit your written feedback at the Education District offices, in the boxes available, and at the offices of the Members of Parliament across Trinidad and Tobago. And remember, this week we have education all week, as we have this spotlight on education tomorrow evening from 7:30 p.m. This spotlight on education will have a feature address by the Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley. So remember, you too can be a part of transforming education, as we understand that the transformation of education takes a village. I am Matthew Gibbs, and I thank you for joining us as we continue the conversation on transforming education in Trinidad and Tobago.
November, get ready for The Gathering. We're doing things differently as we bring you a virtual experience like never before. The Gathering, Sunday, November 29th, across the TTT Limited Media Network.